So good morning everybody and welcome back to the third of our Wednesday wisdom sessions. As you know, if you've joined us before, the aim of these weekly sessions is to give you an overview of a typical topical HR issue and our thoughts and solutions. As we've said before, we hope you can join us every week, but obviously now that you're registered you can join us whenever you want, so please do save the link, although we'll attempt to send you out a reminder prior to the meeting. Before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please just keep your microphones on mute for the first part of the session. We did try leaving them on, but there's a bit of background noise goes on sometimes which interferes with the recording that we're doing of the first part of the session. So you can all unmute yourselves again at the end when we get to the question and answers. As I've just mentioned, I am going to record this part of the session, so just the advice section. It won't show any of your images on the recording, it'll just show me and the presentation that I'm talking you through, and then I will turn the recording off when it comes to the end, to the questions, so that we can obviously deal with those with keeping your privacy. The reason we're recording it is really just so we can share it with people who haven't been able to attend. I've got Lisa here on the session with me today, and Lisa's going to keep an eye on the chat, so if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them to Lisa on the chat. You can either do it privately or in the group, and obviously we'll get round to answering them at the end. Please do be aware that these sessions aren't designed to give you a full HR support, so if you've got a specific case that you need help with, it may be better to email us or call us or stay on at the end and we'll have a chat with you. It's not designed to give you a full set of advice. So today I'm going to go through 3 of the most commonly asked questions we've had over the past couple of weeks in relation to bringing employees back to work. Now, we've obviously done quite a few bits and pieces already about return to work, but hopefully the content in these next bits are going to be different to what we've already talked about. So the first part of what I wanted to go through is just to cover the update that we received on Monday in relation to shielding employees. So anyone who has been shielding and therefore has not been in your workplace, those people that are in the most vulnerable of health categories will be able to return to work on the 1st of August. If they can work from home, then obviously you should still be allowing them to, but if not, they can return to the workplace, provided that your workplace is COVID secure. Just because the government have said they should return to work, however, it doesn't mean that they are going to want to or that they are going to be happy to. So what are your options with employees who have been shielding? Well, in part, that really depends on what you've been doing with them during their period of shielding. So were they on furlough or were they on statutory sick pay? Originally, people who were shielding were permitted to be put on furlough, and then a couple of weeks later, the government then suggested that you could also use statutory sick pay if you chose. So it was really an employer choice as to how you dealt with those people. If they were on statutory sick pay, their entitlement to that will end on the 31st of July, unless their GP signs them off as unfit to return to work. So they will either need to return, or you'll need to look at options such as unpaid leave or annual leave. If they were on furlough, specifically because they were shielding, so that was the only reason you placed them on furlough, was because they had a shielding letter, again, that will end on the 31st of July because the reason for furlough will no longer be there, so it will no longer be valid. And again, you'll need to explore those other options. But if you furloughed them for other reasons as well, so not just because they're shielding, so if you furloughed them because you didn't have the work or because they had childcare issues at the same time or for any other reason, you've got other staff on furlough, etc., then they can remain on furlough or on flexible furlough until the scheme ends in October. So it really does depend on the approach that you've taken with them so far. We suggest you plan ahead, so start that conversation now with any of those employees who have been shielding, or also this applies to anyone who's been caring for somebody who's been shielding as well, because people that were caring for someone who was shielding were also permitted to be furloughed. So have that plan in place for returning them in a safe and effective way. So this is where your return to work meetings that we've talked about before will be absolutely crucial. Those people who have been shielding are going to probably have been more socially isolated than the rest of us, and they may have really poor mental health at the moment and be struggling. They might feel really overwhelmed and unsafe about returning to the workplace and worried about catching the virus. Just because the government have now said that they're safe doesn't mean that they're going to feel safe. You need to talk your concerns through, share your COVID-19 risk assessment with them. You might even need to amend your risk assessment to cover those shielding employees because you may have to take extra measures for them. Remember, those employees who have been shielding, it's highly likely they'll be classed as being disabled because they will probably have some sort of illness that impacts on their life on a significant amount of time and on a significant basis. So you are obliged to consider every reasonable adjustment to help them return to work. And also, how are they going to get to work? So if they have to take public transport to work and back, consider if there's any way that you can help them with this, because they may not want to get on that bus or that train. I know that now legislation states they have to wear masks on buses and trains, but obviously that's not necessarily enough to protect them. Do encourage any shielding employees that are looking to return to work to consult with their medical team if they're still worried. Their medical team are the ones who are best placed to offer them the right amount of support and can also advise you on the best way forward with them as well. And you might also want to consider some mental health support for your team in general, not just your shielding employees. We do partner with a wellbeing centre that has a brilliant corporate package, and we'd be more than happy to put you in touch with them. So if you do want any advice, just let us know on that score. One of the most frequent questions we are getting asked at the moment about the flexible furlough scheme is, how do I actually go about informing my employees? How do I actually do it? Well, it's really similar to the start of the furlough scheme itself. So you need to consult with your team and inform them of what's expected of them, what their pay will look like. So are you only paying 80% for the furloughed hours, or are you going to top that up to 100%? Make sure they're aware of that. And you need to confirm it in writing. We do have a letter template for this on our secure COVID section of our website. If you need a link to that, please let us know. You can bring employees back on set days or hours. So you could bring them back for 2 days a week, 3 days a week regularly, or they might fluctuate from 1 week to the next. You might not need them every single day for certain weeks. You might only need them for 1 day, 1 week, 3 days the next. It depends on what your business is. You know your business best. Whilst they're on furlough, they should remain available for work, but it's also good practice to give them a little bit of notice of their hours. So what we would recommend is making sure you inform them by no later than the Friday of what their working week will look like for the week following. Yeah, so don't leave it till the Monday afternoon and say, oh, by the way, we don't need you tomorrow or whatever. That's not really very fair. However, some employees have actually been raising objections to returning on varied hours. They sort of say, well, we're not able to plan our days, we're not able to plan what we're doing. And I've actually even had a couple of employees of our clients saying they can't do varied hours if they've booked in things like hair appointments and nail appointments and all the other appointments they've been desperate to get in for the last few months and not been able to do. Our response to that has been, well, tough in a nutshell. Furlough is not holiday, it is not annual leave, it is a period of time where you are not required to physically be in the workplace, but you are required to remain available for work during your normal working hours. If you have appointments for something that is non-essential, such as hair, nails, whatever, you should be doing this in your own time, or you should be booking annual leave. If you are not available to work for that reason, you are not on furlough, and therefore that's unpaid as far as we're concerned. Now, presuming you've done everything you can to be accommodating for your employees and your employee still refuses to attend work, you are going to have to start looking at your disciplinary procedures. But obviously we would encourage you to communicate with your employees first and try and resolve the situation informally. The last part of this session, so we're going to just talk a little bit about kind of motivation. So fast forward a few weeks from now and your team are all back at work, or maybe some of them have already been working all along and absolutely working their socks off to get those orders filled for you. Whatever the scenario is, it's really important to encourage and motivate your teams so they feel reconnected to the business. Whenever you have a period of time out from the office or time working from home, or maybe just you're working so hard you can't take a breath, you're so busy, you're just running around like a headless chicken, it can really quickly drive a wedge between team members. So small niggles can grow into large ones, and before you know it, your best people are off down the road handing the notice in because the place just isn't the same anymore. So we've come up with a few tips here to help you to re-engage those employees. And the first one, the biggest one I'm going to talk about, is that magic C word. And I don't mean Christmas, I mean communication. So you know, anyone that knows us well enough knows we're massive advocates for communication. So keep talking to your employees, share the company's goals, share the plans for the business. Yeah. So whether that's good or bad, keep communicating with your employees, keep them in the loop, encourage them to ask questions and encourage them to contribute to the business's future, really make them feel part of that team again. Set a good example. So remain positive and enthusiastic. Negativity spreads really quickly, like mold in a pot of raspberries. So one raspberry goes bad, before you know it, you're throwing the whole punnet of raspberries away. So where possible, make sure you leave your own problems at the door and keep that positive attitude. Show your employees how much you care. So ask them how they are, ask them what they need, get to know them, find out what motivates them. Show them that you actually have some thought for them. And again, that's probably partly where your return to work meetings come in, because you'll be talking to them about stuff like that at that point in time. Now could be an excellent time for you to get that review or appraisal done that you've been putting off. You know, we hear it time and time again, yeah, we kind of have an appraisal system, but we haven't really done them, we haven't really had time. Get them done. So how do your employees want to develop? What do they want out of life? What do they want out of their future with the company? Let's look at that. Let's get some appraisals done and set some simple objectives to help them start to achieve those goals. Make sure you check in with them regularly to make sure their workload's manageable. So if they're too busy, who do they go to for help? What do they do about that? And equally, if they're bored, what do they do? So boredom can be a really, really unmotivating factor, and it can actually be the reason that people do leave employment, because their job just simply isn't challenging enough. So if they're bored, is there something else they can be doing? Is there something that they can be learning? Can they shadow somebody else to learn a bit more about the company and the job role? For the team that you've had in place that have been working hard and have gone above and beyond for you, how are you going to say thank you? How are you going to reward them? It doesn't have to be a financial reward. It could be something really straightforward. You might give them all a box of chocolates or a voucher. Alcohol, if that floats their boat, obviously make it applicable to them. So try to find something that has got meaning to them. Remember, it's not about what you like, it's about what they like and what they will appreciate. And maybe consider some team building things that you can do outside of the office. So can you go on a team walk somewhere for an hour or so? Get out of the office, change of scene, just do something together as a team. What about getting a breakfast delivery in one morning or something? You can have a socially distanced breakfast together, or an afternoon drink or something like that. And plan some activities for when we can actually get out and about again. So obviously yesterday we received the great news that a lot of pubs and restaurants and things are going to be able to start reopening from the 4th of July. Can you plan a nice team activity for them to do, to go somewhere and do something that will just give them that bit of fun back again and allow them to socialise when they've been probably very isolated recently? What about something really straightforward like an employee shout out board or an intranet system, where somewhere where your employees can give kudos to each other for a job well done, or for just being a good friend, or offering them support, or whatever they feel they want to do. Get your team talking and praising each other. And the last tip really is, what about that mission and vision statement you've been planning to write for the last 3 years that you've never got around to doing? You know you want to put a vision statement in place. You know you want to get all your objectives and your team ethos there. You've just never found the time to do it. Now would be an excellent time to engage your team in that. Get all the team involved in helping to create your new vision. Me and Lisa do run some really excellent kind of team days for that kind of thing, where we can explore all the options with you and help you to come up with those areas. So do chat with us if you do want any help with that at any point. These are just some of our tips, and I could go on forever about it all. So above all, I think show your employees you've got their best interest at heart, and really give them back that sense of belonging in your workplace.